Kick it.
Game on.
Yeah.
Game on. You just kicked it, right?
Welcome to Hardheaded Podcast, your practical and realistic podcast. I am your host, Chet Sears. With me is Mr. Matt Amos, and we have our guest host, Christopher Beef Broughton, with us because Troy, Three-Shot Trussell, is still out, and we miss him dearly. We have been in contact with him, and he is on the road to recovery, so keep praying for him, but he's doing a lot better today. So glad you're with us. Thanks for tuning in. And we've got a really exciting show. Matt's going to bring us what's on his mind. We're going to talk about our top 3 country music songs. And then go ahead.
If you don't know what's on Matt's mind, how do you know it's really exciting?
Because you and I are professional, and we will make it exciting for our listeners.
Okay, I got you.
You'll pick up the slack.
Yep. Story of my life. And then we'll close it out with a good word from our good friend Beef. So let's get this thing kicked off. Matt, what's on your mind?
Well, there's 2 things on my mind right now. One of them is I've got a pork butt on the smoker at home right now that's currently in its stall. So
I'm going to have to ask some clarifying questions. Is this pork butt in a half submerged in water?
No, this is not a Traeger boil. This is actually a Traeger smoke.
And for those that do not smoke meats, the stall on a pork butt is the point at which your fat begins to render out, and it actually evaporates and it prevents the meat from heating any further. So on that, for me, that's typically around 152 to 155 degrees. It'll stay there for a couple hours and not get any hotter. But as soon as you break through the stall, then you need to
You gotta be ready.
Got to be ready to wrap that thing. And so Matt's on a time crunch, and we don't really care because you haven't volunteered to bring any of that meat into the office and share it. So.
Well, this is my first run at a pork butt.
Yeah.
So I'm testing it out, and I did use one of my recommendations, which was the Burn Pit Barbecue.
On your seasoning?
Yeah, so that's what I coated it with, was their garlic, the ground pounder.
Okay.
So we're going to give that a shot and see how it turns out. But I'm sitting at 157, and I've been there for a little while, so yeah, I'm pretty good.
You're going to be all right.
But the actual thing that was been on my mind this week was a couple days ago. I saw an article where actually it was a friend of mine in Montana that reached out to me and goes, you know what just happened? And I was like, no, what? I never know what's happening. And he said that they just outlawed or voted down a bill that would allow, and he said wounded warriors, but it covers disabled people specifically. They voted down a bill that would allow them to use crossbows during archery in Montana. Yep. And so like here in Kansas, nobody cares. Use your crossbow. And I don't know when they passed that, but you can use your crossbow during archery season.
It hasn't been that long. It's been since I've lived here.
Yeah. I mean, but it's come through, and I honestly don't see the big deal about who has a problem with that.
Well, let me clarify that. It has come. So in Kansas, Broughton, what is it in Louisiana for crossbows? Do you have to be disabled, or does it just count as archery?
Oh, I do not know.
You're not you don't do either.
Yeah, I don't do any.
You only rifle
anything but center fire, sitting in a comfortable chair, waiting for the deer to walk out and be shot.
I know in Kansas, it was crossbows were approved for people with a disability during archery season, and then not too long ago, it changed to crossbows are good for everybody during archery season. What you still doing office work there or something?
He's probably researching now that he's at his computer.
Yeah. You have a loud keyboard.
But so I saw that come through, and so my buddy was upset because he hosts Wounded Warriors at his place, and that would open up a lot of opportunities for them to actually take an animal because a lot of them don't shoot archery regularly, but you know, you get somebody out on a once in a lifetime elk hunt, you know, you want them to be able to find some success. And, you know, if they're not archers, you know, and haven't been out there practicing, why are you going to bring them out with a month?
Or if they're not able. I mean, if you're talking elk, if you're archery hunting for an elk, your compound bow is going to have to be a pretty hefty draw weight.
Well, it's going to be a good draw weight, but I mean, also, you know, like, and I know guys, I know triple amputees that, you know, one guy shoots with his teeth. I mean, he pulls his bow back with his back teeth and shoots it that way. You know, it's pretty incredible. And he's pretty accurate with it. Now I did see him miss a turkey, and that's on film, but, you know,
I would miss a turkey with a shotgun, I imagine,
but, it's not hard to do. But you know, for other guys that aren't as, you know, dedicated as that, I guess, or don't want to ruin their teeth. Funny story about that one. He was actually hunting in Africa, and one of the guides that was there wanted to they were watching him, you know, pull this bowstring back, 'cause he's got a little dog leash tab where your loop would be. Mm-hmm. And so he has the little dog leash attached in there, and then he bites on that. And then, you know, with his good arm,
just pulls it out,
you know,
pushes the bow out.
And so the guides were seeing this, and they wanted to give it a shot. Well, the guide stuck it in his mouth and pulled all of his front teeth out.
That's kind of funny.
I hate tooth damage stories. They're nightmarish.
That's one of them. But you know, so he's one of the random one-off guys that can actually do that, you know, and I saw where some of these bigger hunting groups were against it as well. And my big thing with that is, you know, they're saying, oh, traditional bow only, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, well, you're technically not using a traditional bow. And then, you know, the argument is, well, Montana classifies this as a traditional bow. Well, it's a compound bow, and you're using a trigger release, and, you know, you've got
fiber optic sights.
You've got all this crazy stuff on there.
Range finders.
What's really traditional about that? You know? And I go, what's the difference between from taking it and just moving it horizontally and then having a trigger?
Yeah.
You know, it's still using a bow. It's not a firearm.
Its lethality range is in effect no different than these compound bows of today.
No, not really, not at all. I mean, now is it easier to go out at a further distance with a crossbow? Absolutely, and it takes more skill to use a compound bow to shoot those distances. It does, and that's the argument that I see these guys making. It's like, oh well, they want to be purist and they want to try to be, you know,
but at the same time, you're preventing some people that aren't physically able to go out and archery hunt. You're preventing them the ability to hunt during archery season.
That's my whole point is what are the drawbacks other than the only thing that I saw was the one consistent thing through there was, they just didn't want these people out there because they have these spots, you know, my spot. Well, okay. You're hunting on BLM or you're hunting on state ground. It's not your land. It's everybody's land. And so they're mad that there's more hunters out there taking up some of their spots. And then they say, well, it's less dedicated hunters and they're not as passionate as we are.
Yeah, who cares?
It's not for you to say.
Yeah. Well,
I have a couple of thoughts on this.
Fire away.
Well, first I'll tell you that in Louisiana, crossbow is archery. So there's no special thing from what I just found on the Google machine.
Okay.
Second, at least as far as I know, Montana is more of a hunting destination state. Although Kansas and Louisiana are hunting places, I feel like
Louisiana is sportsman's paradise, Broughton.
Yeah,
that's what the license plates say.
Come here for the deer, although the volume of deer is great, the size isn't. But you have to. And generally, I'm against regulation. So right away, I'm against government types and regulations and all that. But the perspective that the law types are going to go with is the people in Montana, the legislature, and these are people that go with this are people that really don't know legislators. But the legislature and the Department of Wildlife up there has studied this. They know the impact of additional crossbow hunters on their wildlife population. They know how many disabled hunters there are, how many additional crossbows that would be, and what effect that would have, and whether or not an exception is warranted and what the effect would be. And so that's, until you hear some of the reason, I mean, that's all you can go by.
No, but
they've looked at it and decided that's what's best.
You don't manage it through method of take. You manage it through tags. Like, who cares? We have this many tags that we're going to allow this many of this certain type of game killed a year. It doesn't matter what method you use.
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, I know a guy up in Canada right now, as far as I know, he's gotten a tag every year for like 5 years for a moose. He's still waiting on the first one. But if he was allowed to have
they factor that in.
A Moab, I'm sure he could have gotten mini moose each year.
Mini moose.
Mini mooses and mini pieces.
I'm not for it. I think like we're talking. So Kansas is a whitetail destination,
and I'm not saying I'm for it either. I'm just saying the
I understand
perspective of the supporters is that they're managing the deer the way they see best based on the information they have.
Well, and their big thing isn't necessarily the deer. I think it's the elk.
Yeah, but still.
Or they hate disabled veterans.
I think that's what they.
Well, my thing is that they've got, and it's a lot of Western hunters too that act like they're superior to every other hunter that's out there, just because maybe Broughton and I hunt and you, Chet, hunt from a stand and wait on deer to come by. These guys are, I'm hard charging. I'm traipsing up and down these hills and I'm stalking, and archery hunters are just better hunters and whatever. I don't know, man. I'd put myself up against any archery hunter, being mostly a rifle hunter myself. But there was one opinion article that was written in one of the Helena, I think one of the Helena newspapers or something like that. And it was a veteran, and he was like a submarine, like a submariner guy. And he goes, well, I have upper body injuries and blah, blah, blah. And I would qualify for this and I don't need it. And so it's that type of thinking that just doesn't work with me.
Well,
just because it's not good just because you don't think it's right doesn't mean it's not right for somebody else. And so I know they decided to table it and bring it up later. And then I think there's 4 disabled folks, and I don't know if there's any veterans among them, but that have sued to be able to hunt this year because they drew tags.
Yeah. I think that that line of thinking, and you come anytime, I guess this happens in any sport, but if you just want to look at hunting and fishing, anytime you get those jack wagons that are what you referred to earlier as purists, and limiting this and limiting that, making it harder for this and making it harder for that, hunting's gonna die if you don't make it accessible. It just is.
Right.
And I think some of these hunters are 100% okay with that as long as it dies after they're done.
Right. Well, and wait until they get old enough, and then, I could really use that. I tore my shoulder up. I can't even draw my bow anymore, but I still want to go out during bow season because there's not traditionally as many hunters during bow season. And that's again, what they're after is less people in the field. Yeah.
But at the same time, rifle seasons always come later in the year, which more adverse conditions. So, the older you get, the less likely you're going to be to go out to hunt. So I'm 70 years old and it's 15 degrees the week of rifle season. I'm not hunting this year. But during archery season, it's September and it's 50 degrees. It's 60 degrees. That's a lot more opportune time for me to go out. I don't know. I just think those guys are lame, and that that they need to allow it, and the legislatures ought to go and vote for it too.
Yeah, like I said, they tabled it for now. They're gonna vote on it again after this season's over, but I don't see what the big deal is, because like you said, the management is done by the tags. So the same number of animals are going to be taken no matter what. Who cares how they're dispatched as long as it's in a humane, ethical way? I mean, who cares?
Yeah.
If you can ethically take one with a Moab missile or whatever.
It's a bomb.
Yeah.
Right? Broughton, it's a bomb, not a missile. If they drop the Moab out of the C-130, like they have to drop that out of a cargo plane, don't they?
Yeah, I think so. The mother of all bombs. I forget what they call it. But as long as you can get some of that meat out of there, or a majority of it, I think it's fine.
Well, it takes down the trees and sucks all the oxygen out of a cave.
That's true. We wouldn't want that.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Broughton, you still with us?
He gone.
No,
Oh, he's there.
I'm still here. Sorry. Earlier I dropped my phone.
Oh.
So there's a phone in weakness. Sorry about that.
A phone in weakness. Okay.
Well, and when I dropped it, I apparently put myself on mute. So when I just said something earth-shattering about the Moab, you didn't hear it.
so take us back. What was it?
Earth-shattering as in the Moab itself.
Yeah, all I said was Moab stood for mother of all bombs.
Yeah.
I think you just...
And that it partially cooked the meat when it killed it.
Hey.
Oh. That's beneficial as well.
Probably not to the to the other wildlife in the trees and the ground.
And I can't believe you're calling out John for not killing a moose yet.
I didn't name the innocent. You just did.
John Doe. John Doe.
Hey, that's who it is, John Doe. Yeah.
I don't know. It frustrates me a little bit. And so when my buddy asked me about this, I looked because I personally have a crossbow. I haven't hunted with it.
I have a crossbow. I have hunted with it. I have not killed anything with it. I watched my son stick a hog with it, which was
you went down to Oklahoma
awesome.
and did that, right?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Have I not sent you that video?
No.
I'll send it to you this afternoon. It's pretty cool.
But
you need to.
Just because I don't hunt with it myself or choose not to, at this point, doesn't mean that I don't want others to not hunt with it. And I think they're kind of missing the point because, I think those guys are, again, being purists, quote, and I use that term loosely, who really, I keep coming back to who really cares.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these guys are coming in, they're hunting to eat, they're not out there for the trophy bowl or, just to make it challenging on themselves. I mean, hell, they're disabled. It's a heck of a lot more challenging for me to go out and hunt that same moose or elk than it is for them with their two good legs running around up and down talking about how badass they are.
Yeah.
And it could be what you said, somebody with more money and influence doesn't want as many bow hunters or handicapped bow hunters, and the injured war veterans often aren't billionaires who can control the legislature. And so,
well, and wounded guys aside, this is just any disabled person. And we have all kinds, and they're talking about all the adaptive equipment that they have for them to use and stuff like that. And that's kind of my world is trying to figure out ways to get people to hunt and overcome their different abilities or disabilities and do things in a way that makes them successful. That's what we do at Wounded Warrior Outdoors. Mm-hmm. And for some of those guys, a crossbow would be the only way. And I know guys that can overcome, and those guys that want to use a traditional bow do everything to try to use a more traditional bow. Brian, is one of them. He's missing an arm and he's got two fingers left, but he can manipulate a bow with a prosthetic arm. Well, he's got the prosthetic arm because he's got the VA. So what if a person is out there and they don't have that prosthetic arm to be able to even draw anything back or use something to brace the bow against to pull with their good hand? And it's a limitation that I think is ridiculous to try to fight. And the only reason that you're going to fight it is because you're selfish about your spot that you say is yours.
And that's made more obvious to me in the fact that states like Kansas and Louisiana allow crossbows for everybody during archery season. And
They're
Montana's
all hunting,
yeah,
except migratory waterfowl.
yeah. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Whereas Montana's not even allow crossbows during archery for disabled folks. Where most every state that allows crossbows for everything now, we're allowing it for the disabled category
Prior to.
Yeah, decades ago.
Yeah.
You know, so get with the program, Montana. In whatever state, I'm guessing that, you know, Wyoming's probably there. There's probably Oregon and Washington State may be similar. Those western states like you're talking about, they may all be like that. We just are aware of the Montana one because you've got a friend there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's ridiculous, and I think it's stupid for big hunting organizations that want to tout recruiting new hunters and trying to propagate hunting to be against it, because ultimately that was the goal, to get more hunters out there, because eventually, they keep saying that the hunting numbers, are going down, and they keep going down. And of course, COVID brought those numbers back up. There's a lot more people hunting. Of course, a lot more people had time. A lot of plans changed. And so they're like, oh, well, I'm here. I've got my tag. I'm not going on this business trip, or I don't have to work or whatever, and they can make the hunt. And so it started bringing all of that back. And there's a lot more of the push to the field to table type stuff.
Know where your meat comes from.
And and they said that, it's finally coming back around. It's like, oh, I've been doing it the whole time, ever since
you could,
I can hunt.
Yeah. Nah, you probably weren't good enough to bring home some game early
not,
on.
Not in the beginning. No,
Yeah.
no, but I've got more experienced, and I'm pretty successful, unless I go to somewhere where I don't know and I've never been.
Yeah.
But it irritates me that it's a holier than thou attitude, when hunters want to be inclusive and then they exclude people.
Well, and if you look at it, of course, I'm not stacking up how much it costs to hunt in this category, but I do have a freezer full of meat from wild game. And here recently, the Biden administration was getting hammered on the cost of prices just going to inflation. Food prices are going crazy. I mean, I don't know. You don't do any grocery shopping. You don't do any shopping at all,
No.
Matt. But Broughton, you've probably noticed it. Just at the grocery store, it's significant. And,
significant, especially for ribeyes, which is my go-to meat.
And the Biden administration was getting hammered on it, and they said, "Well, look, if you is like their agriculture guy or whatever, if you take out the prices of meat, everything's only gone up a few percentage points." Like, well, hey, like meat is a big deal. Like you can't just take out the prices of meat. So, I mean, I'm like, well, I don't really care too much what the prices of meat are, because I'm not buying ground meat from the grocery store. I'm not getting. I already have all that from, deer or whatever other wild game I've got in the freezer. So, to be, for people to be able to help remove that expense out of their.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I just processed 100 pounds of elk from Montana. Yeah, that's right. Disabled hunter went to Montana and killed one of their elk.
Grounded up.
So all those little guys and traditionalists, suck it. I got one, and you probably didn't with your bow. But processed 100
Is that
pounds.
the one you shot in the blizzard?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. And so we got 100 pounds of that in the freezer for whatever. And how much would 100 pounds of meat, like fine burger, cost me right now?
Yeah. I don't know.
Fine burger.
We're just
$200, like $400-500. I don't know.
I don't know how much meat is a pound
I don't know.
right now, because I haven't had to buy any. That's the thing. I've got a freezer full up.
Yeah, I haven't. Yeah. I guess it's a blessing.
I do know that Broughton, steaks up here are running, I don't know, $15-16 a pound.
Yeah, or more. I'll tell you, down home sausage is over $7 a pack.
Hey.
Now that down home sausage.
Sorry for the side note here to our audience, but somebody we went to college with posted a fundraiser for their kid, where there is like their band or something like that was selling down home sausage for this fundraiser, and it was $4 a pound at the fundraiser price.
What the heck? Who is this friend from college? Why don't you text me their name and I'll support their kid?
I'll have to go back. But so for our audience, down home sausage made in Stonewall, Louisiana is the best smoked sausage that you can buy. And I can't get it up here in Kansas, but it's awesome. Matt agrees because Matt's had it.
Yeah. Matter of fact, when we were up on your bison hunt,
yeah,
you brought some of that up and we cooked it up, and man, it was really good. And speaking of sausage, so I ran out. I've told you about the smoke rings that we get made down in Texas, and it's a smoked sausage with jalapeno and cheese, and it's absolutely phenomenal. Well, I looked a while back and I only had 2 links left in my freezer, and I didn't know that you could actually buy them from this place. And so I was talking to my buddy and he goes, "Oh yeah, you can buy them." And so I called him up. That stuff will be here tomorrow. So I ordered about 10 pounds of it.
Yeah.
But that stuff is $10 a pound.
That's crazy. All right. Well, thank you, Matt, for what's on your mind. We're going to move into a commercial break and come back with our top 3. We would like to thank Admiral's Pennant for sponsoring this show. AdmiralsPennant.com. Get all of your finest beard oils on the planet. AdmiralsPennant.com. My favorite scent is 1815. Check it out. It's got a great description for all of the blends that you could choose from. AdmiralsPennant.com.
Without it, you might as well shave.
And we're back.
You finally got to do it.
Yeah, everybody's been stepping on my "and we're back" toes. So, Broughton,
What up?
you're going to go first here with the top 3 country music songs. Should I say country and western songs?
No, they're different kind of music, I think.
Okay.
I saw that on the Ken Burns country music documentary.
Oh, Ken Burns is awesome.
Yeah. His country music documentary is great.
I'll have to check it out. He's a PBS guy, right?
Yeah. And it is, it's one of his 10-hour deals or whatever, but it's all good.
All right, man, fire away.
Okay. Top 3 country music songs. You did not, here's the way I did it. I just did the top 3 songs that have meant something to me. And this is not necessarily the top 3 best songs of all time or of my life, or even necessarily always my favorites, because your favorites go in and out. Listening preferences change. But these 3 songs jumped when I started contemplating the top 3. These jumped into my head pretty quickly. We could do a whole month-long series on just country music songs and the awesomeness of each one. But I've just narrowed it down to top 3.
Well, that's the name of the game. And I'll tell you, and we always take liberties on why whatever is in it's our top 3. It's not the top 3 of, somebody else can have a different opinion. And this is so, I kind of miss not being able to have Troy on this, because Troy Trussell passionately hates country music. And I was kind of looking forward to having to hear him talk about country music on a top 3 list. So we may have to revisit this in some form or fashion in the future.
I reached out to him and he told me that for him, number 1, 2, and 3 are all the same, and it's fancy like. It's fancy like Applebee's on a date night with a Bourbon Street shake and an Oreo, or Bourbon Street steak and an Oreo shake.
I don't know that song.
He says those are his favorite commercials. You've heard that song. It's all over the TV.
The Applebee's? Is that a country music song?
Matt, do you know the song?
I do, but I don't know that would.
I've seen the commercial. That's actually a song. That's not a jingle. For the commercial?
It's like a real country music song.
I don't know if it's country music, but it would make Troy's country music list.
Oh my gosh.
They play on country radio.
Oh, so
I
that
did not
would
know.
be like the Kane Brown version.
I thought that was an
Yeah.
Applebee's ad, like jingle.
No,
But that is
he did the song and brought up the Applebee's Bourbon Street steak with the Oreo shake, and they had discontinued the Oreo shake. They brought it back for that and adopted his song as their jingle.
wow.
And who was that?
I don't know, one of those guys that I don't listen to.
That gets lost on 30 acres.
Yeah.
One of those guys that would get beat up by any of my guys.
Okay.
And yes, I know about Kane Brown getting lost in his own 30 acres.
All right. Give us your number 3.
Okay. Number 3 for me is Dinosaur. Hank Williams Jr. is really my first country music love. And in 1980, he had an album called Habits Old and New. And one of those songs on it is called Dinosaur. And it is about Hank Williams Jr. realizing that he is more of an old time guy and the ways of the new are not his ways. And he's a dinosaur. He should have died out a long time before. And, he goes into a place that used to be one of his old hangouts and it's turned into like a disco club or whatever. And he just laments about how in the old days it was a honky tonk.
Okay.
And ever since I've heard that song, and I'm going to refrain from singing in full each song for the audience.
No, don't
today.
refrain. Don't refrain, please.
But it is, for a while, this was my number 1 song. I mean, life. I was just like, man, that's just, that's awesome. But I've made it my number 3.
All right.
If you haven't heard it, you should check it out.
I'm going to have to check it out. I bet I'll probably have heard it, but it's not ringing a bell right now.
Yeah. It's awesome. Number 2, I chose I Told You So by Randy Travis. It's on his 1987 album, Always and Forever. But he actually first recorded it under his first stage name of Randy Ray in 1983.
I didn't know he had a stage name.
He was like a guy named Randy Ray, and nobody dug him. And he's like, "What if my name was Randy Travis?" And that was before he started driving around naked, and stuff.
That's before he got messed up.
But this song is about a man that realizes he made some mistakes and he's wondering what would happen if he tried to fix them. And Carrie Underwood redid the song. They've duetted the song. It's just one of the all-time greats. They don't make songs like that anymore. Kane Brown, you can't touch it. Or any of these guys.
I'm a Randy Travis fan, and I had, when I going through my list, he was in the top 3 at one point, but got bumped. I worried. I was like, God, I could put any Randy song here. I could put Digging Up Bones, Deeper Than the Holler. That was going to be mine.
I Thought He Walked on Water is the Randy Travis great song. Anyway,
good one.
I Told You So is my number 2. And earlier, I mentioned Hank Williams Jr.'s 1980 album, Habits Old and New. And I didn't even realize they were both on the same album. But my number 1 song is also the Hank Williams Jr. song. And it's called The Blues Man. And I would hope that you've heard this song. Alan Jackson's redone it. Everybody's sang The Blues Man. And it is, this song is 40 years old, 41 years old. The album came out in June of 1980, back when he was just doing like 3 albums a year and dominating the world.
Yeah.
And it's about a guy who realizes that he is, the love of his life saved him from a bad path he was on, but it has everything great about country music in it. Redemption, love, getting rowdy. It's it's such a great song that there was never any choice that it was number one. There were only choices of what to do with 2 and 3.
Ah, okay.
And Hank Williams Jr. is not, he's known as a great songwriter, influential guy, not necessarily the world's greatest vocalist, but like, even though Alan Jackson sang that, to me, Hank Williams Jr. is still the best singer of it.
Yeah.
And I had an Alan Jackson song that flirted with the top 3, but those are my top 3.
I got you, man. Two Hank Williams Juniors.
I mean, he is, to me, the most influential song of artists of our lifetime. I know George Strait's called the king, but that's of Nashville record executive types. And
right.
Is he really the king, or is Hank Williams Jr. the king? You ask yourself that.
You need to ask yourself that.
George Strait's the king.
All right, I'm going to go.
Hank Williams Jr. could roll in there and whoop his butt any day of the week.
So
George Strait or rope him.
Those two. So Dinosaur and Blues Man, were those on the radio? They're not on the classic country today.
You'll hear them on the radio, but not. You have to be on like a classic country station. You're not going to hear them like, coming up, we got Kane Brown, but here's Dinosaur.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'll say something about country music before somebody else goes. I'm not one of these people that hates all new country music. I can appreciate Luke Bryan, and it's different. It may not always be for me, but I can appreciate that it's their music. It's different and things change. So I just, I'm not one of these people that likes to say music that is not my type sucks.
Yeah.
As long as you can find your way around 30 acres.
That's pretty funny. All right, I'm going to go number 3, Dwight Yoakam from his I can't remember what the album was, but he released this in 1993, a song called 2 Doors Down. And it's a dude drinking his life away at a bar because his woman broke up with him. And it's fantastic. It's not on the radio these days, but just a good country song, sad country song that pulls on your heartstrings, and of course it's Dwight Yoakam, so it's good.
Yeah, I've not heard it, but I'm going to check it out. I like Dwight. He's underrated.
Very, very underrated. And
he's kind of a Western,
Yeah. He's kind of there with Chris Ledoux.
The Bakersfield sound as opposed to the Nashville sound, they say.
Wow, I didn't know they say that.
They do.
I didn't know that either. But he kind of reminds me a little bit of who'd I just say? Chris Ledoux.
Yeah.
Chris Ledoux is real Western.
I get he's emotional. Like you can hear it.
Yeah. He's a good actor as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
When he plays Doyle in Sling Blade.
Yes. He plays
Don't make me where I can't turn back, Linda.
He plays that part perfectly.
All right, number 2, Dixieland Delight by Alabama. Originally written by Ronnie Rogers. I think that Alabama released it in 1983. But Alabama's got some good stuff too.
They got a lot of good stuff.
They do. They're great.
I'm a big Alabama fan.
The old 40-hour week. That's one of my favorites.
Chubby old groundhog, croaking bullfrog.
There you go, man. Sing it. And then number 1, Louisiana Saturday Night, performed by Mel McDaniel. Bob McDill wrote this song. I think it was originally released by Don Williams, but Mel released it in 1981. That's really when it took off. But any song that talks about a single shot rifle and a one-eyed dog needs to be in the top 10 at least of country music. Any song.
It's a good one. They play it in Tiger Stadium a lot.
Yeah, I would imagine. I think I recall that, actually. That one and Baton Rouge is another one they play.
Oh, yeah, call them Baton Rouge.
Every Saturday night. And I'm going to go ahead and say honorable mention, Mississippi Squirrel Revival by Ray Stevens. I remember, I can't remember what year it was that came out, but I rode the school bus. Sheriff's deputy was the bus driver, driving in uniform, and he had a radio on that bus. And as long as everybody was quiet, we got to listen to KRRV 100.3 classic country. And I sat under the speaker. It was a big box speaker, that's mounted on the wall of the bus towards the ceiling. And it seemed like every day that year, while I was on the bus, that radio station played the Mississippi Squirrel Revival. Cracked me up. So that's my honorable mention. All right, Matt.
All right. I guess I get to take the liberties this time because you only had a couple of honorable mentions.
I had one.
And I've got a lot.
No, you don't. Just stick with your three. Go through your three before you get to your honorable mentions.
So my first honorable mention. No, I'll do my top three. So number 3, Small Town Southern Man by Alan Jackson.
Great.
Love that song. And number 2, this one, and I kind of took.
How does that one go?
Well, I'm not going to sing it for you.
I was trying to get you to sing it.
But,
okay, keep going. You didn't fall for my trap.
Nope. But a lot of these songs, I kind of went the same line as Broughton did. They may not be everybody's top 3 or even be on anybody's top 100 list, but they're songs
That's what I did too. I just didn't say it.
Well, I think you went a little bit more trendy.
Have you ever heard Two Doors Down?
Yes,
how trendy is that? Is that?
You're right now. You're wearing those bedazzled jeans with.
I'm wearing
real tight.
What are the jeans that all the cowboys wear with all the fancy stuff on the pocket? I don't know, with a Affliction T-shirt, cowboy
Rocky
boots.
Mountains.
I don't know.
Oh, Chet, I forgot. I can't go to the Kane Brown concert with you next week.
He stood in line for 8 hours to get those tickets. Of course, he was lost.
I won it through a tweeting competition. I was on Snapchat and I won something.
But so anyway, these top 3 songs that I have basically were songs that I listened to on deployment a lot because they reminded me of home. So Small Town Southern Man was one of them. Number 2 would be Heartland by George Strait. And that would either be, I like both versions of it. You've got the actual song and then you've got the opening theme to Pure Country.
Yeah.
Where his son's.
I'm going to just say that's not fun to listen to.
It is. You'll get into it if you listen to it quite a bit.
No, I'm not going to listen to it quite a bit.
And then
I'll take his radio version.
And then number 1.
But I'm going to argue with you here.
Okay.
It could be in your top 3. But if you line up all of George Strait's greatest songs, is that going to be at number 1?
He was wanting to get back to the Heartland, and he was fighting for the Heartland, Chet.
All right.
Yeah, it reminded me of home. But I mean, it's still in my number 1 of George Strait songs.
Okay.
Yeah. I love that. Plus, I love the movie.
I got your back, Matt.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Coming from Kane Brown over here. Number 1 would be
Mel McDaniel.
One that you probably have never heard of, but it's by Garth Brooks.
Yeah, I've never heard. Who's that?
It's the song, because it's not one of the more popular of his songs either.
Go ahead.
It's called Bella Wood.
Bella Wood. Yeah, I had Garth Brooks albums. Didn't just listen to the radio.
It's Garth Brooks. It's not Garth Brooks. So I don't know how many albums you had. Anyway, but that goes back just to the Marine tradition. Bella Wood. The two sides are fighting. And then Christmas night the fighting stops, and then they start singing Silent Night on both sides, and the two sides kind of come together for a little bit before all hell breaks loose again. It's a pretty good song. One of my favorite Christmas songs.
I think I've heard it.
It's really good. If you haven't, I don't know where you might be able to find it because none of Garth Brooks stuff is on iTunes. You might be able to find it on
YouTube.
Yeah,
maybe.
YouTube.
Yeah. Or Garth Brooks radio station around Christmas time on XM radio.
Yeah, but that's not going to get your immediate gratification to listen to the song. You're going to have to wait.
I have a feeling that people are going to be looking up Broughton's and my songs before they go to that. Because yours is a Christmas song.
I think it's an all around song. It's based around Christmas, but it's about two sides just stopping to come together over one common.
Nobody's interested in doing that today.
Hey, I'm bringing
Nobody.
it back. I'm bringing it back.
Nobody.
I'm bringing it back.
Future top 3 is top 3 Christmas songs.
He needs to sing one about vaccines. People with vaccine views coming together.
How would Brad Paisley change ticks to vaccines? I want to check you for papers.
I want to check.
That's another good song. Those ticks by Brad.
Yeah, I like his. I'm Still a Guy. That one cracks me up.
Well, that one and Online and Celebrity. He's got quite a few good songs. Mm-hmm. What is the other one that he's got? That's at the beginning they got like NASCAR and it's talking about Dale Earnhardt and he's coming around turn 4 and he spins and I forget the name of the song.
I know the I'm Gonna Miss Her, the bass fishing one.
Yep,
that's a good one.
Yeah, he's got a lot of good songs too. There's a few that almost made the list from him on that too, but short list. So
all right, man. What are your honorable mentions?
So honorable mentions. Anything Johnny Cash, like all of Johnny Cash. I like all of his music. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to just fill 1, 2, and 3 with all Johnny Cash. But he's probably my favorite artist. But my top 3 honorables that don't meet that would be Jason Michael Carroll. And he's got the song Where I'm From. It's another song about just where he's from.
Why does he have 3 names?
I don't
like
know.
John Michael Montgomery, Jason Michael Carroll.
I think because it stands out and it rolls off the tongue. And the more people are going to say that name, the more it gets heard. It's a marketing ploy.
Okay.
Another one on my list has
3 names.
Number 2, or honorable mention, I guess, would be one that just came out not too long ago, but Logan Mize, who didn't. He's a local guy from Clearwater. And the music video of that song was actually filmed in Andale. And it just kind of talks about, growing up and...
What's the name of the song?
Who Didn't.
Who Didn't?
Who Didn't.
Okay.
And it's just got that small town feel that reminds you of home and talking about the, football games on Friday nights and driving the dirt roads. And it's a good song to listen to. I listen to it on my way home.
Which is not, nobody sings about that in country music today.
Nobody does sing about that, but that song's pretty darn good. And
I need to write a song.
Home on a Friday night.
I need, let's talk about
dirt roads.
Football, dirt roads, tailgates, mud tires.
If we want to go that route, then Bo Burnham has got.
I do not. I don't know Bo Burnham.
You don't?
I know Logan Mize because I won tickets to a Logan Mize concert on the radio.
So Bo is a comedian. He was like a YouTube.
Oh, I did see that where he's like, let's make up a country song.
Yeah, and it's called Pandering.
Yeah.
And that's so if you haven't seen that, go check out Bo Burnham and Pandering on YouTube. It's pretty epic as are some of his other what do you call those?
Parodies.
There you go, parodies.
Yeah.
Because he's got one for Kanye West, which is pretty good too. And then another honorable mention would be another 3-name person.
How many do you're on 7?
Yeah, I've got a lot. Tessie Lou Williams, Leaving Montana. We listened to that one when we were
Leaving Montana.
You're
like, I got just a song for this.
Yep. So, and it's kind of funny because I was introduced to her at one of the Wounded Warrior Outdoors events in Kentucky, and her dad plays the stand-up bass, and she had a fiddle player, and she had the guitar and sang. And
she reminds me of older country music. Like,
yeah. She's very traditional. None of that new stuff. And I mean, she's from Montana, lives out there and can write about that because she lives it.
Tessie Lou Williams.
Yep.
It's okay for females to have 3 names.
And she is on, all of her stuff is on iTunes. So you can go check those out and listen to those. But anyway, that's my top 3, top 20, whatever.
Yeah. Hey, Broughton, you could throw in a couple extra here too, because Matt,
Well, I forgot to include a bonus fact.
Okay.
And that's that Hank Williams Jr. was born right here in Shreveport, Louisiana.
I don't know if I knew that.
And forgot to, I intended on mentioning that, but I want to say that there's a house that backs up to the duck pond that is still owned by their family.
The Williams estate.
Yeah, but yeah, his he was born here in Shreveport. They lived here briefly, or doing the Louisiana hayride stuff his dad did.
So have you ever heard about the Louisiana hayride?
No.
Oh gosh. So that was a big.
That was like the Grand Ole Opry in a lot of ways. It was a competitor.
Yeah.
And
Early.
like Elvis
Kind of got started there. Johnny Cash did a whole lot there.
I gotcha.
I actually they were at the Shreveport Auditorium. Is that what it was called?
Municipal Auditorium.
The Shreveport Municipal Auditorium. I went and saw at that venue Jerry Seinfeld.
Well, I graduated at that venue.
Did you really?
Yeah.
What year was that?
Hey, we don't need to give out all that personal information, but it was before you got into high school.
Oh, no doubt.
That's awesome. All right, that not a bad top three. It was pretty tough coming up with narrowing it down, I guess you could say.
Yeah. I don't know if these are honorable mentions, but two that had some consideration were Someday by Alan Jackson and In Color by Jamie Johnson.
I figured I would, if I was a betting man, I would have bet that you would have had it In Color in your top three.
That really reminds me of my grandfather, because an old black and white picture of him and my grandmother, who I never met, and he was a pilot in World War II, and just it really, and it reminds me of him.
You've heard that one, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Should have seen it in color.
You should have.
Yeah, I just feel bad about some, not just the songs, but some of the artists that, I mean, there's just some great bands out there that and people that you just want to make sure are included, but we just couldn't get everybody.
Yeah.
I'm going to pin Troy down on his top three.
We'll have to do an accessory at some point.
Yeah.
And make him do it. Because it would be funny to hear, because one of them probably would be, some kind of.
He'll do Friends in Low Places.
Fancy like.
He'll do. When you said that, I thought you were talking about Fancy like Reba McEntire.
No, that's she's awesome. But Reba, Reba was in Oklahoma last week and got trapped in a building, had to be pulled out by firefighters because the stairwell collapsed.
No way.
But luckily she was unharmed.
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah.
If Reba was trapped in a building, I would go up there and help.
Absolutely. She's if there's one of the queens of country, she's one of them.
She's an American treasure.
Yeah. All right. Last words on the top three country music.
I mean, if we can keep going, because I've got like a whole library, because country music's pretty much all I listen to. Any of the other stuff I have is very limited.
I will say this: it doesn't have, Chris Stapleton is so
he's
overrated.
good.
I can't believe everybody
He's
loves
good.
him.
Oh,
I like Chris Stapleton.
He's just saying he's overrated.
I like him.
Yeah. I just everybody who wants to go for that classic sound, go listen to some classic country. Good grief.
Well, they're not making it anymore. So that's
Just go back. You don't have to have new stuff.
well, I mean, that's like saying just.
I got your back, Broughton.
You know what? I just showed you like
fair weather country fan over here. I don't listen to songs that haven't been released in the last 5 years.
I just showed you a 1978 Ford F-250 in perfect prime condition. You're like, no, they've got newer. I'll need that. I'll need that old stuff.
No, I'm not paying $30-some odd thousand for a F-250 from 1970 something.
Well, I'll say this: if I had to name a list of vehicles and I had limited funds to, anyway.
That's actually going to be one of our future top threes. So don't say
really?
anything.
I had no idea.
Yeah, one of the future top threes. What is the criteria there?
Well, that's been disputed. I heard.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure. I guess so.
We'll figure it out. All right, Broughton, why don't you fire away with your good word? And this is the first time we've had a guest contribute, a guest host in this case, contribute to this segment. So fire away, man. Don't drop the ball.
I won't. Last, by the way, Bellew Wood, Garth Brooks is on YouTube. Okay. Now, today's good word. You kind of caught me off guard when you asked me to do it with a little notice, but I was like, what's something that means a lot to me? I was like, they don't always have to do with Bible verses, but then again, That's something that means a lot to me. And today's good word is heaven.
Okay.
I think that it's something everybody, oh, I'm going to heaven. Not everybody, but, everybody who thinks they're going to heaven thinks you're going to heaven. But sometimes I think we sort of put it in the back of our minds, like that's where I'm going, so I'll just do what I want while I'm down here situation. But for me, heaven is sort of my reassurance that keeps me from getting too down about all this junk that we deal with every day. Masks and vaccines and taxes and hunting regulations and bad country music singers and health problems and pain and death and job stress and everything that we deal with all the time. And sometimes we think we try to handle stuff in ways that we think maybe are even Christian ways, and really they're our ways. We just try to angle them a little different. But when it comes to heaven, I picked a couple of verses because, there's obviously a bunch of them. But Revelation 21:4 says, he will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more. Neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain anymore, for the former things have passed away. And they're talking about the new heaven and the new earth there.
Mm-hmm.
And Matthew 6:19-21 is very familiar to a lot of people. It says, do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys and where thieves do not break in and steal. And then verse 21, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And I fail every day at everything, a lot of things. But one of the things that keeps me going is that I know, what Jesus did for me and where I'm going. And that includes, so while I do have some concern for my bank account and maybe, some other things.
It's not
in the end, it doesn't matter. Remember, we had some people go everything's going to burn, and that's true, But I like to put it the way, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And I would love to continue to work towards my heart being more heavenly, because that's where my treasure being there, and forgetting about all this stuff.
So don't get caught up in the day-to-day grind and lose sight of the ultimate goal, the most important thing.
What if Jesus had been like, I'm not doing that? That's, we're sitting here, I don't want to wear a mask, or I don't want to get a shot, or I don't want to, what if Jesus is like, I don't want to get nailed to that?
Yeah.
I think that a lot of times we get so worked up about this stuff, and some stuff is rightfully worth getting worked up for. I mean,
but you can't just dwell there though, right?
Protecting the unborn, you got to keep that fight.
Yeah.
But also, it consumes some people. Some people get consumed by the world, and just, there's a better place, and none of this matters. And that you shouldn't, I've been accused of being sort of lazy with that. Oh, none of this matters. Who cares? But, there is a better place in store for us. And you just, when you're getting down about this place, keep that in mind.
Man, I think that's powerful. Very powerful.
Yeah. Matter of fact, it's one of the episodes. So I'm way behind on Unashamed, and they actually just talked about this like a few weeks ago. I can't remember how many episodes back, but they were talking about heaven and what it would be like, but there's not too many verses that actually describe what it will be like. And I can't remember which one it was, but one of the disciples had a vision of what it would be like. And he said that it was too indescribable to put into words. He didn't have words to describe what what he saw.
Yeah.
So, you know, we don't know what it's going to be like. And, you know, that was one thing that got me thinking was, you know, I'm looking forward to this place, but I don't even know what it's going to be like, you know? And then Jace came up and said, you know, he goes, well, when I go on a vacation, you know, my wife says, hey, we're going to Hawaii or whatever it is. And, you know, his first question that he always asks is, who are we going with?
Right.
Who's going? Because that's who makes the trip. Right. And so no matter what.
So even if you're in Hawaii, but it's with somebody that you don't care to be around, then Hawaii's not that fun.
Right. Yeah. If I'm chilling there with Kamala Harris, I mean, it's not going to be a good time.
Kamala.
You know, but.
Kamala Harris. Say it right. She's your vice president.
Okay. Vice President Harris.
But I'm with you. It matters who you're with.
Right. So I think, you know, for me, just looking at the ultimate goal, I guess, of heaven is being there with Jesus.
Yeah.
Being with the Lord. So I think that's one of the things that just kind of takes all that other and just, you know, trusting him that it's going to be awesome. I haven't figured out hunting yet because, you know, there's not going to be any more death. Right. So if we shoot ducks, do they just come back to life?
I think you're going to be just fine. I think you're going to be just fine.
That's just one of those questions that I think to myself. There's no more death. You know?
Hunting came from the sinful nature, the sin. We weren't given dominion over the animals of the earth and the birds of the air until after sin entered the world.
But now we didn't have a need for that. And honestly, we won't have those desires. Like everybody's like, oh, in heaven, we're going to be able to do this. I think you'll just have desires to be with God, love God. And I don't know if you'll see your dead, you know, relatives or what, but, you know, I think that your desires will be different. So you don't have to worry about, you know, will I be able to hunt? Will I be able to play
hunting
golf?
is going to be lame in comparison to everything else going on there.
Well, even if I can walk up and touch one, you know, sneak up,
but you know,
silent.
The new heaven is different than the new earth. When we come down to the new earth, it could be a little different. You know, obviously that's a whole nother podcast that we could talk about when we revisit country music on another one.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. I think we're about ready to wrap this thing up. Ron, you got any last words? Appreciate you sharing the good word on heaven.
No last words.
All right.
Today.
All right. So we will talk to you next week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you again to our sponsor, Admiral's Pennant Beard Oil, admiralspennant.com. Without it, you might as well shave. Have a fantastic rest of your week. Thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Like, subscribe, share. Tell your friends about us. Hopefully you're enjoying it. If you are, get it out there.
Rest in peace, Norm MacDonald.
Rest in peace, Norm MacDonald. Okay. You could
Is that good?
Fade that thing out now.
We're almost there, though. Yeah, we hit it.
What'd you hit?
He likes that part of the song. He calls it the drop.